Good morning. How are y'all doing today? Let me just do a brief little introduction. My mustache is a little bit crazy. I just had my breakfast. Um, but I'm here with a couple dogs. I got Jessi and I got a buddy over here. I'm gonna keep him off camera just in case, just for right now until I talk to his human and see if maybe she's okay with him being on camera. He's a really good boy, but he's hanging out with me because it's a bit of a rainy day right now. Up here in Maine, I'm sure people who are used to the Northeast are pretty aware of how fickle the weather can be and how interesting the weather can be, especially during spring. So I'm sounding a little monotone today because I got to get back in the rhythm of doing videos. I took the weekend off. I haven't been on that part of YouTube since Friday, so I have no idea what's going on. If anybody's watching this, just no idea. I'm just gonna get. I just wanted to get on here. I realized I had a lot of loose ends that I need to come back to at some point. I have my mom and my brother are gonna help me out with that part. But I also realized I kind of do better when I have a bit of not an outline per se. I don't like much prep. I want to do this as improv as possible. Like I said, this is supposed to be like long form improv for me. Um, but I like a title at least, or at least like a portion of a title, because you know how I do it. I like having my fun titles, or at least they're fun to me, which is why I make them. But I like the chunks of titles where like each chunk has a different thing to it, and then having one of them be the title. So for right now, the title for this one is something along the lines of an introduction, like a reintroduction, just because one, it's a new morning, a new week. Uh, it's a new year since the time I think I did the last introduction, like a full introduction, and it's been. This is my 10th video back because I did 9 videos last week. Um, this is my 29th video back as well because in total because I did 28 videos. The last video I did was my 28th. I didn't. It was kind of a fun overlap for me because for me I have lucky numbers. I've always especially lately paid attention to angel numbers and synchronicity and stuff like that. It's always around me, especially since I turned 30. So I'm 33 right now. I turned 33 in February, um, and I turned 30 in Las Vegas. 30 was a big year for me. 18 wasn't really that. I mean, it was a big year, but it wasn't like. For me, 19 was a bigger year because it was when I joined the Air Force. Um, but 18, was a normal day, normal year, normal type part of my life because I'd already been doing a lot of the stuff that an 18-year-old, but I didn't do anything different. I didn't start smoking or like that. I didn't start drinking. Obviously you don't. Sorry, I didn't start smoking or drinking until I turned 21 anyway. Like I or after 21 because I drank 21, but I didn't smoke. I I am a big proponent of cannabis. I'm a big proponent of psychedelics, especially mushrooms, as you can see above me. Um, but I'm not saying I'm a proponent of the other people doing those things. I'm saying I'm a proponent for myself. And if your intuition, actual intuition, not some outside voice, not some friend, not some misinterpreted ideal. No, no, like an actual internal voice is pulling you towards it. Maybe, maybe it is for you. But again, I'm a trust but verify type of person. I took a lot of time and spent a lot of time before I determined it was for me. And I have a lot of rules related to it. I don't, it's not just recreational. It's a lot of like ritual and spiritual practice involved. So like for me, it's different. Like it's like a meditative practice. But let me just, I figure I don't have any specific time limit today. I'm not trying. I have to, work in a few hours and work with the dogs and hang out with these two. So I'll probably pause these and let them outside and then go out. But I've cleared up some space on my phone. I've got a good amount of space for videos. I might just let this one go for a bit and just do one, or see how this goes, like play it by ear. But like I said, this is like it's improvisational in the sense that I am reacting to my environment. So I might pause, but I'm not going to edit. I might start a new video, but that's because of I accidentally hit the stop button instead of the pause button, or because I uh, hit a button on the gimbal on accident, or because a dog bumped me. We know something like that. Outside, in again like this. This thing is being silly, and it's because I did something and it reacted to it. So like that's fine. I will adapt, but I'm not going to edit that out. That was part of the video. And again, I have no expectation that anybody watches these. This is for me, and hopefully, eventually it'll help people. But I have no illusions that I'm special or I'm gonna become special to anybody. So I'm just me. I'm just Austin. Again, I'm not saying that I don't have. So I know some people like mononyms. I do too. I'm a huge fan of Unica, and I love that they go with a mononym. But I kind of like that too. I'm not saying I won't use my middle and last name, but those I don't associate with them as much lately. I mostly associate with my first name, and so right now, I spent a whole lot of my time in my life going by my last name or nicknames associated with my last name because of the Air Force. It's how it happened. I'm sure most people get it. Like so, basic training. They all you have is your uniform, and it's a blank uniform, but it has your name tape, which goes over the right side of your chest. Um, and so it had my last name, and so people would call you that, but then eventually that's like everybody's. It just feels so impersonal to a certain when you're used to first names, and so as we become friends, instead of going to first names, or switching from last name to first name, we would reference their states. So I was briefly called for basic training. I was called Mississippi for a while because I joined the Air Force from Mississippi. I didn't go to my MEPS center was in New Orleans, but my recruiter was Mississippi. So I said, it was delayed entry program, and then you do that for a while, and then you go to basic training, and then MEPS, basic training, tech school, and then some training has like follow-on courses, and then you have your job, which you then do on the job training, and then you have the job itself, which is still they won't let you do it's like every other job, but you start at the lowest rank, and as you gain rank, you gain responsibility, and it's very linear, like a very delineated process. And part of my brain enjoys that. Part of my brain enjoys having visual, distinct landmarks between progress points. Like as I progress, I like having landmarks to identify progress. But I'm not a huge fan of authority in the sense of I don't like anybody telling me what to do unless it's already something like unless it really depends on the person. Obviously, it's context, but I'm not the biggest fan of authority figures in the sense that I will like my I'm the manager of the kennel. Like I am the one who is the manager. My boss is the owner of the kennel. I'm the one who works Monday through Friday and manages operations. I make sure everything is done properly, from mopping the floors to taking out the trash to cleaning out a kennel that has had a dog had an accident in, that kind of thing. And a lot of days it can be pretty relaxed, but on some days it can be stressful, and sometimes it's because it's raining outside, or a dog won't listen because it's scared of because the place that the kennel is a long lane, and it is this really awesome poured material that is very durable, but it's also a little like it can get a little slippery, especially on days when it's rain. So I try to keep it squeegeed off and dry so the dogs don't slip. But it's got these 24 kennels, 20 that are standard size and 4 that are larger. They're about double the size of the standard kennels. And each of the kennel themselves has their own run, an outdoor run, which goes to a garage door. So there are a total of uh, 10 garage doors, so 5 and 5, and we can open all 5. Or is it 6? It's 5 or 6. It's 4, 5, or 6. It's I can't, in my head I'm picturing it wrong. I can't remember because I know they're doubled up. So it's 6. Yeah, sorry, 6 on each side because there's 12 kennels to a side, and 2 of the kennels get a garage door. Is how it spaces out. So the garage portions are a bit bigger than the average kennel because you have extra. It's using chain link fence to create the outdoor runs while it's using cinder blocks to create the kennel themselves. So the kennels have a bit more sound dampening. They're a bit echoier, but the spaces between the kennels allow for sound to travel better. And also, it's a bit more solid feeling, so it gives the dogs a bit more of a respite so they can, hunker in when they want to nest a little bit. It's a bit more comfortable for them. And then if they want to be interactive, they can go out into the outdoor runs, the garage areas, and they can bark at each other and all that stuff, no problem. Then when it's warm enough, we open the garage doors so they get all the fresh air. But then, like this time of year, as it gets because right now it's finally hit, steady 40 and above, 50 and above. Like it finally hit 50 this weekend, and it was like, oh, so nice. But for a while, it's been going down to, it goes all the way down to like cold. And it was hovering in the 20s for a while there. I mean, I eventually got used to it to a degree, as much as you can get used to 20 degrees outside. 20 degrees, 30 degrees, 35, 30, 40-ish is pretty chilly, but I can go out in a pair of decent work pants and a t-shirt and work in 45, probably pretty comfortably nowadays, especially. But when I first got here, it was a struggle. Like, I was always wearing jackets. Nowadays, I can pretty much go shorts and t-shirts. I walked about 20 miles to and back when a few months into being here, shorts and a t-shirt, Crocs as well. I'm always wearing Crocs. But like right now, I'm barefoot because I'm on my futon bed area because it's just I have a smaller space, but I've really nailed down where everything goes. Like it's all very modular. I can move things around and it makes the space feel like it's triple the size, kind of, because the futon can fold up and become the couch, and then I can push it against the wall and it widens the floor space. Kind of like an RV. My grandparents used to be RVers. They you got rid of the RV. They're still alive, thankfully. No, they used to have an RV, and it was really cool to see when they would let the slides out. It would widen the whole living room like significantly, and it would so you'd almost feel like you're in a different place when it was all set up. But I've obviously digressed. It's been almost 15 minutes of me kind of going down a tangent. But with this being an introduction, I guess I should start from the beginning. I was born in Arkansas, and I never lived really in Arkansas. My mom has a wanderer's heart, is what I'll say. When we were younger, before we knew that could be considered problematic, I would sometimes use the word gypsy. I know that for some people that can be inappropriate, and it's because like the Romani people are a distinct, they're a culture, so I don't want to disrespect their heritage or their way of life, but we emulated things that they are known for, not the stereotyping, not the negativity. We're not saying that they're thieves or anything like that. No, no. I'm saying the traveling part, the traveling people, the wanderers, the nomads, that kind of lifestyle. I just like the word gypsy because I think it's pretty. I think it's a pretty word. Um, but I know it has baggage, so I'll say wanderer instead, or traveler, or adventurer. I love the word adventurer. Um, so my family has always been wanderers. The the part of my family that is the 3 - 1 = 0. My mom, my brother, and I, we are very much wanderers, um, travelers, adventurers. And so before I joined the Air Force, because I joined in 2012, because I graduated high school 2011 and I joined in 2012. Um, Took a little bit of break between to go on a vacation with my grandparents. We went on an RV trip around the states. We started in Mississippi, went up went up through Arkansas, went up and north, and then came back down. We went to the East Coast. We went to DC. We went to New York City. We I've been to the Smithsonian, the different museum parts of the museum twice so far. I would love to go back. I love DC, but I love that part, the Smithsonian, the heritage, the monuments, the actual, like, oh look, this is us, our good and our bad, not just our good, the truth of who we are, the phallic Washington Monument next to this awesome, like, it's a statue that I don't think that President Lincoln would have elected for. I don't think he would want himself sitting on a throne. I don't think he thought of himself as a king. I think he thought of himself as a servant of the people. And I know he's flawed. Every human is, and I'm sure he had his moments. I'm sure he made mistakes, but we can all at least hold in our hearts that he moved the the world forward in a positive direction, at least with one of his acts. With the Emancipation Proclamation, even if all of that stuff we hear, like the lore, is propaganda, the end result is that he did good, right? He is at least partially responsible for one of the greatest acts of kindness. Yes, it was the result of a terrible, terrible thing that our country, America, the United States of America, did to people. Human beings were treated as if they weren't. Were treated as if they were less than human, less than animals. Like, because we wouldn't have even treated dogs that way, let alone like a human being. I love dogs, you know that. But like to think that anybody could treat a dog like the way they treated human beings in that period, and I'm not saying it is gone. I know in parts of the world it still happens. I know that it's not always white people. It's not always the people who are being enslaved aren't always being held in chains, like literal chains. But it's happening, and it has happened throughout history. And it's not a thing that we've always done. We've had, if we take certain, belief systems at face value, then we've had periods, like if you take Genesis, for example, then obviously we didn't start in the garden enslaving people. If we take it at its face, we started way later. It wasn't like forever long, but we didn't immediately start with the worst. One of the worst things you could. No, I think definitely one of the worst things you can do to a person is enslave them. To take away their humanity, to take away their freedom, to take away their identity, their culture, like to take away somebody's history, like think about this, like the idea that in Africa, like, so if anybody's read or watched the show where they talk about, it's the American Gods, and the character, that one of the characters is Anansi. So I didn't know about Anansi from that. I knew about Anansi from there's a book I love called The Ear, the Eye, and the Arm. It's by it's the same author who wrote The House of the Scorpion. But let me see. Pop me a second. All right, so I just had to step away, not step away, but like pause this real quick to double check, but Nancy Farmer. Um, she wrote two of my favorite books of all time, The House of the Scorpion, and the one that I'm referencing in this specific conversation is the Ear, the Eye, and the Arm by Nancy Farmer, and it talks about the Anansi boys. I believe that that's what they're referred to in the story. But it was three brothers, I believe, who all had unique magic powers, and they were called the Ear, the Eye, and the Arm because of their powers. I believe one had ear-related abilities. I think he had really heightened hearing. One had eyesight-related abilities, and the other had something to do with flexibility or strength. Guys, be careful. Puppers, Jessi, you just bump your head. Be careful. But no, like, really interesting book. But I remember hearing about Anansi, who, for those who don't know, if you've looked into the American Gods or any other African culture or mystic belief that brings up spiders as being sacred. Ironically, I'm wearing an awesome Spider-Man. It's the Venom, the symbiote Spider-Man suit. It's not the Venom suit. Is it Venom or symbiote Spider-Man? I always get it mixed up. It's one of the two. But I was, I recently tried watching the Spider-Man: The Last Dance. Sorry, the Venom: The Last Dance. But it's not bad. I don't know. I'm having a hard time with inauthenticity lately, and I'm not saying it's not. That's not necessarily what I'm saying about that movie, but it just okay. In my opinion, if you're gonna get somebody to talk to themselves for an entire movie, you gotta have it be Eddie Murphy, right? Like, he's the one who nailed the I'm two characters talking to themselves idea. Like with I'm sorry, my brain is. But it was the whole. People think of Tyler Perry and Medea, but I think of let's see. Sorry, I had to make sure I had the right one because I was gonna say the wrong movie, because it came out later. I didn't hate it, but it just felt a little bit meaner. I love Nutty Professor. It gets a little mean at points because it can be very body shamey, but obviously that's what it's kind of about. It's before body shame was like such a overused term or thing, discussion point. It is important. We should not body shame, but at the same time, I feel like Nutty Professor was one of those early, like, they brought it up early kind of thing. But it's such an interesting movie, interesting idea because it is essentially for a lot of that movie, an actor talking to themselves, and I'm hoping he got paid extra to be the two leading roles. Like, he had to really own those scenes because he was the only, but I remember Multiplicity, that was good, but like the idea of an actor talking to themselves, I just think that with Venom, I just didn't believe it as much. Maybe it's because it's so CG. Maybe if they were to get somebody in a semi-practical, like a practical suit that made Venom look real, and then also layer CG on top of that, maybe it would be more believable. I don't know. I don't like. Sometimes I don't like straight practical. Sometimes I don't like straight CG. I like when it's a bit of both because like with that whole thing with was it the Lord of the Rings where the actor who plays Gandalf, was it Sir Ian McKellen? I remember he wasn't there a scene where, not a scene, but from the behind the scenes where he was just struggling with like being able to put himself in a scene because he was surrounded by a green void. Like, how can you Like, and then he started being told to look at this foam ball or whatever it was and say, "This is a dragon." It's like, okay, I can only do so much. Like, I'm only able, like, I can be this character. I can be Gandalf as hard as I can and embody this role. But you also want to hold a whole other second character in my head that I have to now act against. You're not even helped. Like if you had like with Planet of the Apes, the newer ones with uh Andy Serkis, he does such a good job of being that the secondary force, the person you can act against in a scene. Like, he can be a a Smeagol. You can be a Caesar, and you can have somebody else like a James Franco acting against a young Caesar, and have somebody to have an emotion. So like if Andy Serkis is dressed as semi approximately to an ape as he can, and is acting and is emoting like he would want an ape to emote in that scenario, big teeth, big gestures, then that's easier. And he's got the hand stilts where he emulates the arm length, that kind of thing, the proportions. Then that's so much better and so much easier and so much more comfortable to act across from than just a green screen. Or even worse, a bunch of green screens that are blob shaped, Like, it's like, come on. Give the person something to work with. Even if it was just a silhouette cutout that just happens to fit the sight line. Off camera, a silhouette, the shape of what you want would be so much better. Or with the modern, I don't remember what it's called, but that technology they use for the Mandalorian, where it's the projection mapping, but it's the reverse projection mapping, where it's like it's a dome, and the entire scene is mapped on the background. So you have a full background that, as you move, it has you, like, it knows where your point in the room is, and the scenery moves as you do. Or because it's big enough set, it doesn't have to. It just is stationary, and it acts like a background should. The parallax effect isn't artificial. It's an actual natural parallax, which is way more convincing. Like when you see an anime, they have they're riding down, like in Akira, when they're riding down the highway and they've got the backdrop going by. It's really just layers of backdrop moving at different speeds, and it emulates parallax, and it looks good enough that our eyes can't tell the difference because we're watching Akira on the motorcycle, right? But if we're watching the background, we can tell, because humans' eyes are really good at pattern recognition. We can tell that the three different sections are moving at slightly different frame rates, because we can try to have them move at a smooth 20, 30, 24, 30, or 60 frames a second, but we're humans. If you're paying close enough attention, you're gonna see a mismatch. It won't be perfect, and AI could detect that, but a human eye wouldn't. And so with the Mandalorian and the awesome, projection mapping equivalent, it allows for a parallax effect that is genuine, or as close to genuine as possible, without having to do a scene at location. Like, I've done extra work when I was doing out of the Air Force, active duty. So I got out of active duty in 2016, and was, guys, enough, breathe. I hope you guys have been able to hear me enough. I know they're a little bit crazy. Jessi, take a break. Take a break. No, it's a good girl. Hey, you wanna see? Look who it is. Oh, yes, good girl. Yes, ma'am. But yeah. So I got out. So I joined in 2012. Went to basic training, got out of active duty in 2016. When I was done with the active duty, I did a lot of odd jobs. I did some odd jobs here and there. I did window washing. I did parachute packing. I did I did the table game school. So no blanket. Don't chew on the blanket, Jesse. Do not chew on the blanket. You've got your toys. That's fine. It's a pretty smile. Look at that smile, Miss Jessie. Oh my gosh. Um, but so I did the table game. It was the Crescent City School for Gaming and Bartending. I believe is the full name. But there's at least three locations. There is the one in where I went to in Gulfport, Mississippi. The one in Las Vegas, and I'm guessing the runt of the litter is the one in Atlantic City. Because I've heard good things about the one in Vegas. Obviously, it's the when people think of gambling, they think of Vegas, and if they think of the world and gambling, I think they think of places like Monte Carlo and like Monaco and movies with like the scenes in the movies. But they think of Vegas first, right? And then if they're thinking like sad, like it's a sad scene, then it's Atlantic City, right? Like oh like in Home Alone, like when they go to Florida, that part of Florida, you're like, that's a little bit like Atlantic City, right? That gross kind of, like honestly, I think probably Atlantic City would have been beautiful if Trump never showed up. Like, imagine if he never let a casino bankrupt. Like, how do you bankrupt a casino? Like, you get given $1 million, a small loan of $1 million, and one, yeah, I get like, okay, how can you turn $1 million into a lot of money? You think casino, right? It just makes money. It's a money printing machine, but you gotta know what you're doing, right? Or at least hire people who are good at it. You can't. You gotta lead with honesty. You gotta lead with authenticity. You can't build a casino where you can't build in loopholes for you to steal from yourself. Like it's just you're working against yourself to begin with. Build a strong foundation and then build the casino on top of it. Run it well, and it will naturally make you money. It might not be immediately like you're instantly rich. It'd be a more gradual growth than you probably wanted, but isn't that better than jumps and fits and starts of growth, and then you lose businesses along the way? Sorry, you lose businesses along the way. Like, wouldn't it be better, like say, to let your leg grow naturally, and you deal with the occasional growing pains that are more gradual, more slow? Or would you want to go with the Trump method and break a bone, let it grow, break a bone, let it grow, break a bone? It might be faster, but it's going to be so much more painful. Like, wouldn't you rather have a awesome like business and place that like a place for people to come to and you can visit with your friends, like, and it be good? Like, imagine if you had a casino, because I wouldn't, I think that they can be pretty predatory, but people go to them, so it's free will. Like, if a person wants to gamble, they're gonna gamble. Look at freaking Kalshi and Polymarket. People have proven that if there's a chance to gamble, they're gonna gamble, and it's just like, okay, if they're gonna do it anyway, then we shouldn't make it illegal. We should make it harder for people to scam people, whether that be the gambler scamming the casino or the casino scamming the gambler, right? Shouldn't it be as like above board as possible? Maybe that's where we incorporate AI. Incorporate AI in casinos to eliminate cheating. Give more human people. Sorry, I don't want to say that AI can't be people. I'm saying give more human people the jobs where humans are best. When you want a human face and you want human hands dealing cards, because I love cards. I could spend all day talking, as you know, but if I've got a deck of cards in my hand, there's a guy in Gulfport, awesome instructor. He was the one who taught me blackjack. His name is Derek. So if you ever go down to and the guy who runs the one in Gulfport, his name is Tony. Tony, awesome guy. Derek's a great guy. I feel bad because I can't remember her name, but the woman who taught craps, she's awesome. Um, but Tony taught poker. The woman who taught roulette, she's one of those women who's like 5 foot nothing, but you're like, she's also scary and oh, but like not, you earn it. If she's being scary, it's either because she's being funny or because you deserved it, right? Not because of something silly. But the but Derek, who taught me blackjack, I remember his name so well because he he was doing the hand that showing a deck of cards, because when you get a deck of cards out of a box, it's pre-set up, at least in the states, in a bicycle box. It's set up, or anything bicycle, adjacent, as hearts, clubs, diamonds, spades in the box, and in the middle you've got king, king. So it's ace to king, ace to king, king to ace, king to ace, right? So when you fan it out, you've got the aces on the ends and the kings in the middle, right? They call them the kissing kings because they're facing each other. Um, but it's hearts, clubs, diamonds, spades, right? And so when you fan it, it's he taught it as how cool Derek seems. And so I remember his name is Derek, is how cool Derek seems, diamonds. And honestly, Derek seemed pretty awesome. So I'm like, he's being pretty cool. So I'm like, all right, easy to remember. Tony also, poker. Poker's my game. Like, I would love to, like, even a fun group to play poker with. I would love to get people who you normally wouldn't see play poker, but the other group that'd be fun to play poker with would be like Joe Rogan, Bert Kreischer, Tom Segura, uh, uh, um, Bill Burr, and then I'd say, you know what? I would say in that group, if you bring those other four, Joe Rogan, Bert Kreischer, Tom Segura, and Bill Burr, I'm the fifth. I'll deal. That's fine. If we have a sixth, I would say I would play. If it's if we have somebody watching the cameras and we're not allowed to cheat, I would play poker against anybody. If it was a fun group like that, obviously the other four can change. But if it was like a podcast setup, a fun group where you're getting a chat, you get to let's play the game, they're watching the cards, I would sit across a poker table as the dealer from Donald Trump. I would sit across from Elon Musk. I would sit across from Bernie Burns. Bernie Burns from, he used to be Rooster Teeth. He'd be fun to interview because I loved Rooster Teeth. I love Achievement Hunter. And he has such an interesting perspective, but like that's just a personal. Like I would let Rhett and Link, Aniko. I would love. I don't know if they play poker, but it'd be fun, right? Like having her people you don't expect to play poker. Like Brendan Lee Mulligan does it with D&D, but like, why not poker? I could do that with poker. Deal poker, ask questions, interview. Why not, right? But the thing is, I can't invite people here. I work at a kennel. You can hear the dogs barking right now. I've got Jessi. But how about this? Anybody invites me to a show, Joe Rogan, Stephen Colbert, I'll even go on Alex Jones. I'll go. I'll sit across and play poker against Nick Fuentes. I don't like the guy. I think he's a fucking asshole. I don't think he deserves a platform. I think that if I can build myself out to be an anti Nick Fuentes, I will. If I could build myself out to be an anti Nick Alex Jones, I would. If I could build myself to be an anti Elon Musk, I would. If I could build myself out to be an anti Donald Trump, I would. But one at a time, right? I'll sit across from Nick Fuentes and other people because, like, I don't want to be just with Nick Fuentes. We need somebody there to be like a witness, because like with the whole conversation between Erica Kirk and the one who keeps calling people trans for no reason, I think she's just rude. Like, what does it matter if a person's wife is trans? One, not to say that she is, but one, why does it matter? Two, why is it your business who isn't trans? Why do you need to ask what's behind a person's zipper or not? Just ignore it. And three, uh, like, have some respect. That's a sitting world leader. That's his wife, but she didn't choose to be in the public view. Her husband did. Leave her alone. She didn't ask for this. And then 4, mind you, like, let her be a human. Let's say that you're picking up on something that this person is self-conscious of. Maybe she's got uh, body dysphoria, where she looks in the mirror and she doesn't like how she looks, and you're calling her out, and it's not going to help her mental health to be called trans on live TV. Even if she was, who cares? It's not illegal to be trans. It's not illegal to be married to a trans person. Even if you are Emmanuel Macron, like if he is, it's none of your business. If he isn't, it's none of our business. It's it's between them. If he, as an individual being, wants to marry a person, that's his business. If he also wants to lead a country, that's also his business. He's doing both. They aren't necessarily linked. Yes, what he does as one can affect the other, but we need to stop commenting on it like it's always the case. It's not. He's a human being, she's a human being. Leave them alone. If they do something sketchy, talk about it. That's fine. If let's say that this whole weird thing about, like, I get it. A person was killed. We should not make light of that. Never. We should always respect death. We should always respect a person's, like, the cause of a death. Because like that's heavy. It happened in a public forum. It happened in a place where people are probably still and will always be, to some degree, affected by that day. And it's just like, Erica Kirk did not deserve to lose her husband. No matter what her husband was saying, I don't agree with a lot of things that he said, but he doesn't deserve to lose his life because of that. Just like I don't. Like, I've made some comments on these in my last few videos that I'm sure people would misconstrue as being anti-Christian. I'm not. I spent a lot of my life, at least 10 years of my life, heavily invested in that faith system and that those mystic practices, those beliefs. Those were mine for a long time, and I never really got rid of them. I just realized that some of them didn't fit anymore, or at least didn't fit my understanding. Like, when I started learning more about Hinduism, or Sanatana Dharma, or Dharma, but it just means the everlasting Dharma, like it's the everlasting truth. Um, the time that's not linked to sorry the truth that's not linked to anything else. It is just the truth. Um, it's and a lot of people understand Hinduism to make sense, in the sense that it's not you're worshiping. It is polytheistic, but it's not like you're worshiping. It's not like there's 100,000 gods and you have to worship them all, or even worship any of them. No, they all are saying we represent aspects of the infinite, and you can choose and also recognize. Sometimes you don't make the choice, sometimes you just recognize. But when you do, you see where you reflect in these people, in these beings, in these ideas. And with Vishnu and Shiva and Brahman, like the Trimurti, the three, they say, some people say that Brahman is the head. Some people say that Vishnu is the head, and sometimes people say Shiva is the head. And some people say that one is the strongest, one is the fastest, one is whatever, one is the best, whatever. But they're all three aspects of an individual being, of a collective being, of a monad, as the Gnostics would say, um, or a group of people would say. Some people who aren't Gnostic say monad, and some people who are Gnostic don't say monad. Um, but I ascribe to the I subscribe to the idea that that Vishnu, Shiva, and Brahman are essentially hats they wear. This being wears when the job needs to be done. Because sometimes when you're working with hammers and nails, you need to wear a hard hat. Sometimes when you're uh, when you're wearing a specific outfit, you need to wear a uniform cap. And sometimes, like right now, I don't like wearing a hat at all. I'm not a hat guy, but I had to wear a uniform top, a uniform cap, for a long time in my life. Wasn't really up to me. I just did because it was part of the uniform. I made sure it looked good. I made sure I, followed the rules, but I didn't enjoy it. But I signed up to do a thing. The rules said that when you do that thing, you have to accomplish certain end goals. You have to meet certain needs, meet certain expectations. So I did. To the best of my ability, I met my expectations. And what's great is I heard that he might be, Cheeto and Chief might be, bringing back the draft. And it's like, you know what? I'm so glad that his son is draftable and I'm not. Because think about it. Baron is 20. That's draftable. And I don't know, man. I think maybe we should. You know what? I'll do the presidential fitness test. I'm 33. I work at a kennel. I smoke weed and I do mushrooms. I've done mushrooms. I don't do mushrooms right now. I've done mushrooms. Nothing illegal right now. All fully legal in Maine's legal. Mushroom weed is. But as I am now, no prep. I would do a presidential fitness test against Donald and Barron Trump right now. Invite me to the White House. I'll do on the White House lawn. I'll do the presidential fitness test. The old school, touch your toes, all that stuff, on camera. I'll even wear my Air Force uniform. My. I think I might even have parts of. But if not, take me to the exchange. I'll get myself a new Air Force uniform. I'll represent. I'm not shaving. I'm within regs now because I don't have any regulations on my beard and hair, so that's staying. But I'll change my shirt and put on some shorts if it makes you feel better. I'll even wear regulation shoes because for a bit you had to wear black, gray, or white shoes. I'll do that. But yeah, I'll take a cognitive test too. Put me against Trump. Put me against RFK Jr. Put me against any of those. I'll do a cognitive test against Mark Wayne. You know what? I'll box Mark Wayne. I don't care. I might lose. I haven't boxed in a while. I might lose against Mark Wayne. He might be a better boxer, but I'll do it. I'm not a proper debater. I've never been formally trained in debate. But if somebody were to, let's say I were to like, for fun, go on Stephen Colbert's show, right? If Stephen would, instead of paying, like, I don't know what show, I don't know if shows pay to be on it. I don't care about that. But I would appreciate at least being reimbursed for travel and like room and board and all that stuff. Because that's what the Air Force did when I would travel. They would reimburse me for gas and expenses and stuff like that. If it was the travel part, they wouldn't necessarily they wouldn't do anything for when you got there. Like you had to pay for your but they sometimes they would reimburse you on trips especially when you're like moving duty stations. But like if you told them what you spent, they might reimburse you. It was so let's say somebody like Stephen Colbert or Joe Rogan or hell, Tucker Carlson. Let's say one of those people wants me to be on their show, or Alex O'Connor, or I'll sit across. I'll be. I don't want to do any Zoom. I'm sorry. I don't want to do any Zoom calls. I don't want to do any remote videos. I'll meet you somewhere. I will travel to you. That's fine. But I would need you to either help. Well, right now I'm not rolling in money, so I would like the travel part and the hotel part paid in advance, so I can afford the trip. Right? I can pay for food myself. I can pay for my clothing. I can make sure I have the right stuff. Like, let me know. We'll talk about ground rules. We'll talk about what kind of outfits I should bring for different setups and like interviews and whatever. But I want it to be something that we do I want make it an adventure. Like for Joe Rogan, I don't want to sit across from you in your whatever that room is. I don't want it to be a traditional podcast. Let's do a walk and talk. If it's me and Joe Rogan, let's do a walk and talk. I think he needs to add a new segment to his show anyway. He needs to be doing something active, whether it be archery. He should be like archery with. You know what? If Joe wants to bring me on and do archery with me, because I used to have a bow. I don't have a bow right now, but I used to have a recurve bow. I used to spend a while just in a backyard, decently far away target, just fun. Just turn your brain off, meditate for a bit, arrows downrange kind of thing. But mine was a recurve. I don't have any experience. If he wants to show me how to, if he wants to walk me through how to use like the D loop and actually learn how to set up um, a compound bow, that's awesome. I would love that. I think he'd be a really fun person to learn that kind of stuff from. I bet he's really got a unique perspective on it because he's done bow hunting. He has the virtual setup, all that jazz. That'd be fun. If he wants to do an interview or a discussion, I don't really want to think of it as an interview, but like a podcast, like he's doing. I don't want it to be sitting across from him in a room. I want it to be uh, involved. So like an adventure, bow hunting. I'll go bow hunting. If he wants to help me get prepared for it, I don't have a bow, but eventually, if I can afford my own bow, I would love to go bow hunting. I'm not. I have my own specific understanding of how hunting should be done. I'm a little bit more traditional, a little bit more intuitive in the sense that I think you should respect the creature that you're hunting. You should endeavor to um, have it be as painless as possible, and you should endeavor to use every part of the creature possible. So, and then if you can't use them yourselves, you should have a way to process them into a usable material for somebody else to use, whether it's the hide, whether it's the bones, whether it's the bone marrow. Some people would use those things, make sausage out of it, make blood pudding, whatever a person can do with it that's useful. I prefer it be used, like how traditionally the Native Americans would do it, how indigenous people used to do it. I'm sure they still do in some ways, because we as United States, when it comes, as a country, how we treated Native Americans and still do is we basically said we just pushed them into a walled garden, but we pushed them out of the good parts of the garden. We're like, hey, well, that's your land and that's your land, or that's land and that's land. I know a lot of people. I understand that in a lot of cultures related to more of an indigenous lifestyle, spiritual, like great spirit type of mentality and ideas and beliefs. That it's not really about ownership, but it's more about heritage and respect. Um, but to say that this part of this land that you occupy and this land you occupy, we like this, so that's ours. You can keep the rest. And then it kept getting smaller and smaller until their walled garden was they were stuck in a clearing surrounded by the garden. So like they got all the leftovers. Like, oh well, here's a little patch of fallow soil. Here's a little patch of places that was a battleground. Here's a little patch that was at one point salted. Here's another place where a wildfire happened. Like here's all these places that will eventually recover, and then we'll take them back from you. Then, once the land's recovered, we'll take it back because there's oil under it. But until then, you can borrow it or have it as a show of remorse, even though it's not actually remorse. Because like people who intentionally put you in a school and tell you to take all the braids out, take the beads away and throw them away, and you have to start making sure your hair is straightened or making sure you wear uh, more muted tones, no more bright colors, no more animal products used in the process. Like, no, it has to be all like. Are you kidding me? Why? Why? What does what a person wear and when if that's a cultural thing, if it's not, even if it's just style, why would a person wearing a piece of bone in their hair that is 500 years old and they know the person's name who made it? Why would that piece of bone affect their ability to read? So why shouldn't they be allowed to wear that piece of bone in their hair to honor their ancestors while also honoring their new neighbors? Like let's say that they went into this classroom with the idea that it was out of respect, that they were respecting a new neighbor's culture. That's what it probably if I was living in a country or living on in a land that was so big and people came in and they said or implied that they needed it, not that they wanted it, then you're like, oh, okay, yeah, we've got plenty, right? It's like the story of Rama. Like when Rama was, he instead of parceling out the money, he just said, "Oh yeah, I've got plenty. Take what you need." He just said, "There it is. It's not locked up. It's just sitting in a pile. If you need more, come grab more." Right? You don't need to like. You don't need my information. It's a pile of gold. It's more. It's more gold than a country will ever need, let alone an individual. So if you need extra, go grab more gold. That's what America, the United States of America, is. That's what this continent is. The North America is a continent that is insane. It's massive. It's abundant. So much oil, so many trees, so many lakes. The land of 1,000 lakes. All this stuff, right? This stuff, this abundance, and yet we act like it's limited. We act like it's running out, and it's like it's really not. We have an overpopulation problem, but it's not really overpopulation. It's population density. Population density is the problem, not overpopulation. If we made the city's footprint wider, then you'd have more room to breathe, like how Vegas does. Vegas has the natural ability to expand into the valley, and they've got plenty of valley to occupy. They haven't gone up the walls yet, so it's like just keep expanding into the valley, as you need. But they've got, but you're stuck, unfortunately, with like New York City, with it being on an island. There's only so much land you can expand without going into other places. You have to build up, or you have to build down, or you have to like remove and replace. And it's just like, yes, that's what we have now, and we have to adapt to it now. I love New York City, but if before they had broke ground in New York City, they had talked about it, they could have planned in advance a way more efficient, way more organized, way more intuitive setup. They've developed New York City into what it is now, and it's beautiful. And they've done a really good job with what they did, with what they had to adapt to. But it's not what it could have been. It's not as beautiful as if you had planned from the jump New York City. Like, if you could somehow take what New York City is and take what New York City could be, that ultimate utopic version where they did get a good start, and then merge the two, that's what I want. This weird, magical third city of what is and what could be mixed into I don't want to remove what is. I just want to incorporate what could be. And it's just like with places like these 15-minute cities you're hearing about, which are like kind of like weird walled gardens where you can't leave unless you pay to leave, and you can't show up unless you pay to show up. It's like, that's dark. That's some manipulative, like, stuff. It's a mentality thing where, like, even if it's 50 cents, it's a mentality of, huh, I have to pay to leave? What if I forgot my wallet? I'm not allowed to leave? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Are you going to stop me from leaving? Oh, you're going to charge me extra. Oh, so it's just money. And then what happens if it's the next time? Oh, do I have to now pay what I owe and you won't let me in? No, you'll let me in. You'll just charge me extra. It's like, so how? At what point is it I'm unable to enter? Is it once I've reached a debt that I can't pay back, or then I can't leave because now I've got to pay back a debt? What is it? It doesn't make any sense. Like, you should think about these things ahead of time. I just don't understand. Like, I know as humans, we have a lifespan that we've said is a roughly 100 years, right? It's one of those things where, yes, we're expanding as we go, or it's changing as we adapt to medical. Medical research grows, and I'm sure AI will have this huge, like, exponential, maybe even geometric, I don't know, crazy end result with regards to medicine. But at the moment, yes, our lifespan is roughly 100 years, give or take, and it's a pretty solid 100 years. But I mean, it's no freaking what was his name? I was gonna say what's his name from the Bible? Whatever. It's one of those names that's really long. It's not Gilgamesh because it's from the Epic of Gilgamesh. It's not. But whatever. It's one of those ones from Babylon or something. Like he was not Nebuchadnezzar. It's, you know, it's one of those names that you hear that you're like, oh yeah, one of those like live for 500 years type of guys. It's like, oh yeah, it'd be nice. Wouldn't it be nice to live to 500, and that once you reached like 400 and above, that is when you start looking 80 and above. Like if it was proportional, like for the first 100 years, it's like you're in you're turning. The oldest you look is like in your 20s, or like maybe into your 30s. That'd be kind of nice. Like 0 to 100, you start looking like you're in your 30s. That'd be nice. And then 100 to 200, you start looking like you're in your 40s maybe. And then once you're in your like 400s to 500s, that's when you start looking like you're in your 80s, your 90s, and so on. Like when you're maybe more willing to just relax and sit by a fire instead of climb trees and dive into rivers. Not the rivers that RFK or those creeks that he brings his grandkids into. That's so bad. Like, even if you've somehow inoculated your own like mucous membranes against infection, you shouldn't be subjecting them to that level of raw, unprocessed nonsense. You're not gonna get Ninja Turtles. You're just gonna get cancer. I'm sorry. Like that's just how. Like it's gross. But let me really kind of. I've only got a few more minutes left in this video. I had to break it up a little bit, and it's just gonna be one video. I'm not gonna release them as like three, like I was doing last week. I'm just gonna take the three chunks, or however many chunks it winds up being, and put it into one video. No editing, just released. And it's gonna be roughly an introduction. But to actually finish out, so yeah, before I joined active duty in the Air Force in 2012, I had moved with my mom and brother, and sometimes with other people, but mostly us three, at least 20 times before I joined the Air Force. I had moved, significant moves, 20 times. This was sometimes across state lines. Sometimes it was across. It was to different countries. Sometimes it was to different schools, and sometimes it was as simple as a different house, but the same school, but it was in a different town. So different neighbors, different room, different stores, different friends, and like in 5th grade, I lived in Florida. Awesome town called Milton. It's not far from Pensacola. Not a very big town, but Milton's really pretty. It's a really it has really nice people. But I went to essentially an all-black school with my brother and I. It was with myself and my brother and I and two others. We were four white students in a school that was entirely black students. There was one other person who kind of looked like it was like a five group, but it was because this kid who was younger than us by a year or so was albino. His family all had dark complexions. He just happened to have a light complexion, and so like we would hang out, and he'd kind of sit with us because he would blend in with us, just because he was a bit of a quiet, like kind of a shy kid, and so just like he just didn't want to be, talk too much. And it was funny because I went to an all black school in 5th grade. I was friends with everybody. My next door neighbor, David. I haven't been able to find David in years, but he one of my best friends of all time. I'm sure that even now, even though that was what, like 2004, 2003, something like that, he was maybe even like 2002. He was one of my best friends. He genuinely was. And he had a sister that they all lived together. They're all awesome family next door. He was one of the people I used to like play video games with. Like we were I was always more of like a pass the controller, split screen co-op kind of guy. I like online games if my brother's playing, but I'm not really an online game type of guy. But so I've moved a lot. I was born in Arkansas. I went to an all-black school in 5th grade. I was part of I went to churches from around 2005-ish, no, 2004-ish on, like, in, in various capacities. Sometimes, because my mom's husband was, Pentecostal at one point. My mom's husband was um, pretty, like, more Presbyterian, kind of Methodist style at one point. Um, but so my mom, we have moved a lot. My mom was married a few times. All men that I learned more about how to not be from them than how to be from them, if that makes any sense. And they were all white men, my mom's husbands, um, all very different. Like the one that I disliked the most was one of those freaking like dorks, like who like kind of like an Elon Musk kind of dork who would wear a chain wallet and think it looks cool. It's like, dude, no. Unless you're riding a motorcycle where your wallet can fall off out of your pocket and then drag, so you have the chain to pull it back up. Unless you're on a motorcycle, like I've ridden motorcycles. I brought a brand new motorcycle in 2015, and I had it up until last year. So I had my motorcycle for 10 years, and you're like, and so I've ridden motorcycles, well, a motorcycle, but even I wouldn't have carried a chain wallet like my mom's ex-husband. This fucking guy sucks. But that's such an Elon thing to do too. But like, so I moved a lot. We traveled a lot. I lived in Japan for 2 years. I took 2 years Japanese. I've taken years of Spanish, and it's just like I just have never understood where people don't get it, that people are people no matter what language they speak, no matter if they're from an African heritage or from a Asiatic heritage or from if they happen to have a complexion like mine. They're all people. They're all humans. They're all flawed, but they're also all perfect. When I held my nephew, when I first saw him, I was just stuck and struck with the word perfect. I couldn't not see perfection in my nephew. Brand new baby. And I had this like kind of a falling out with my father one day because he said to me, "You know you're not perfect, right?" And it just struck me because I had been stuck with perfect the whole day prior while holding my nephew. And it just struck me, like, at what point did I stop being perfect? What mistake did I make from being born and knowing that being born you're perfect to now? And then I thought about how God would see me. At what point would God would he start looking at me and say, "Oops, that was a mistake"? I don't think it ever goes from perfect to oops. Ever. When you're talking about God, whether you say he, she, it, or they, when would God hold a baby or a puppy or a kitten and say oops? Would say that's an accident. It's not. God did that on purpose. Right? God made that baby on purpose. God made that dog on purpose. God made that kitten on purpose. And it's perfect. Perfect